House as Senior Fellow at the Economic Studies Programme at Brookings. Good to see you, sir. Glad to have you. Now, on both sides of the Atlantic, the current inflation number is 3 times what it should be. We've got the beginning of the monetary tightening, but how far and how deep and how aggressive do you believe it's going to have to be?
Well, I think you're right. We're at the beginning of monetary tightening. I think a lot of the inflation, especially in Europe, but in the US as well, has arisen from the shocks that came from the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the rising food and energy prices. But especially in the US, it came also from excess demand, from very expansionary fiscal policy, very expansionary monetary policy for a long time. So the Fed needs to raise interest rates. The ECB needs to raise interest rates. I do think the situation on both sides, on either side of the Atlantic, is a little different. It's a much more difficult problem, really, for the ECB because they're very much on the front line of the effects of the Russian invasion. We're feeling some of it, but they're really, and that's depressing demand as well as increasing inflation.
If we take the US for a second, how much inflation vis-a-vis recession, as the tightening takes place, how much inflation do you think the Powell Fed will tolerate before it says, hang on, we've got to start priming the pump again?
Inflation or recession? So you said how much inflation will they tolerate?
Well, basically, so to clarify, as things slow down, but they manage to get inflation down to, say, 4-5%, will they stop there or will they continue to push it down to 2-3%, even though the economy could be at a standstill?
So I think they've made it very clear that their highest priority is getting inflation down into that 2% area. And they need to see clear signs that it's headed on its way there. So right now, their priority is getting inflation down. Now, when they get further down the line and the economy softens, it's already begun to soften a little bit, but if it softens more, the unemployment rate rises, and they can see looking forward that inflation has not only dropped to 4%, as you said, but is on its way to 2%, then they can let up on the brakes. But they've been very clear. They need to see a path to 2%.
In your view, how much is central bank credibility on the line on both sides of the Atlantic, in the sense that everybody sort of got it wrong? I mean, it's not just the ECB or the BOE or BOJ. Everybody miscalculated, as Powell admitted, what the effects would be. But it does mean their credibility is now in question to get it right.
So I think they need to do what they said they're going to do. They need to take the actions necessary to get inflation down and to get back to 2%. So yes, everybody miscalculated. A lot of economists miscalculated as well. But I think the Fed is to be congratulated for admitting that they miscalculated, pivoting towards tighter policy, taking the steps necessary to correct the situation.
Chair Powell said at the ECB forum yesterday, he said, we have learned more about inflation and understand more about it now than we did. What do you think he meant?
I think he meant they learned and actually were reminded, thinking about coming out of the 1970s, of supply shocks and supply factors feeding into this. So the excess demand coming from easy monetary and fiscal policy, but also the constrictions of supply coming from the invasion of Ukraine and the lingering effects of COVID. So it's a complex equation here. We're always learning something. Remember, COVID was a completely unexpected and unprecedented event, so very hard to analyze.
Donald, I know the answer is that they can get a soft landing and they can avoid a recession, but do you think they will?
maybe this is I'm answering for hope. I think they can, and I hope they will. But I think it's going to take a lot of skill and some luck too. On the luck side, I think it's about not no more of these supply shocks. So uh, the Chinese economy opening up, people going
Right.
back to work as COVID dies down, and no worse effects from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. On the skill part, I think it's going to be keeping the brakes on long enough to slow the economy, raise the unemployment rate a little, get growth damped so that the demand for labor, the key here is the labor market in the
Hmm.
US. So that demand for labor back, down some, more in keeping with the supply that can be sustained. And it's possible. It'll be hard, and as I say, requires luck as well as skill about when to press
Right.
on the brakes and when to take your foot off.
Sir, I'm grateful to you. Have a good weekend. Enjoy July the 4th, sir, if you can. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.